What's up, guys? Happy Memorial Day weekend. How's everyone doing? Let's see. I'm in my closet here. Nothing too fancy. We're in the Jordan 23 North Carolina jersey. It's Memorial Day weekend. I'm trying the live podcast, or I'm trying this YouTube live version for my podcast recording today. I think it should be, a fun experiment. I record my podcast, been doing it since I moved to New York over 4 years ago. And my podcast has really been an informal, low pressure, low stakes, just kind of brain dump of my journey. I'm able to capture some of the things along the way. And some of the things slip through the cracks that I don't talk about. Obviously, there's so much that goes on in a day. It's hard to capture everything, but it's a fun way of the way I view my podcasts is it's like I'm catching up with an old friend. It's a one-way conversation, right? So the types of things that I talk about on my podcast are basically the same things that I would talk about with friends when I'm the one talking about myself and what's going on in my life. And unfortunately, I can't ask about you because it's a one-way feed. Of course, I care, and I hope that everyone is having a good time and that there are mediums for you guys to share your thoughts and feelings. I guess the only way I can really interact is through this. There's a chat here on the right. So there is the opportunity to engage in conversation there and ask questions. And then in addition to that, obviously I'm online everywhere, right? So there's always the opportunity to interact via pretty much any social media platform now. I'm on everything. My tag or my my @ symbol for pretty much everything is the droid, THEDROYD. The droid has been my nickname way longer than the whole Verizon phone thing. So I'd love to sue Verizon for stealing my nickname. They do spell it wrong though. Thank Zeus. Mine is spelled with a Y the correct way. The droid that has been around longer than I've been in existence, though, is Star Wars, R2-D2 and C-3PO. They've been, around since the 70s. But my nickname, Oldroyd, has always just been the droid. Played sports for a long time growing up. So I've been talking for 3 minutes now about, really just a high-level intro here as to who I am and what this podcast is about. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Feel free to interact. Feel free to hit me up online anywhere. Always trying to build the following, right? I'll follow you back. I'm on Instagram, Twitter. Just hit me up. Send me a DM. Email me, laugh@michaeloldroyd.com. Say what's up in the comment section. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to respond appropriately to the comments as they come up, but I'll do my best, right? Because I'm going to be opening and closing a couple different windows here while I'm recording. I'm going to turn up the dial on my energy level here once I begin. But I do hope that everyone's having a happy Memorial Day. I do appreciate your guys' support. And if anyone wants to have intercourse, I can't anymore because I have a girlfriend, but I'd love to. So I apologize that I can't have intercourse with you at this point in time. I do appreciate the interest, though. And I'm not really feeling how I look. I guess I've been working out. I just got done with a little lift here. I was downstairs doing some power cleans. Nothing too heavy or crazy, but I am getting back in shape. I'll talk about that in a bit. You may hear me repeat myself in some ways here in a couple minutes when I start my podcast up. Because, I need to set the stage appropriately for the podcast itself. But this is a glimpse into the kind of the warm up or behind the scenes kind of ramp up process, the locker room of my podcast, if you will. And if you guys are bored and you're gonna tune out, check this CD out. My dad just put it out. It's called The Journey by Mark Lee Oldroyd. Mark Oldroyd. He plays flugelhorn. That's my dad, obviously, the Oldroyd, and Tom Byrne on the guitars. They teamed up, and my dad produced this. He was the composer for a bunch of these songs. There's like 11 or 12 tracks on here. My dad worked his butt off for it, and it's true art. He doesn't do it to make money, but he did have to pay money to get it made. So when he does charge for it, it's pretty much just to recover the cost of, making this record. And it's very exciting. It's very soothing. And I hope you guys are, I'm gonna get started here in a second. So bear with me. I slightly have to use the restroom, but I'll probably wait. Somebody's hit me up wanting to write for me, so that's pretty awesome. All right, I'm excited, guys. Let's freaking do this. My girlfriend's in the other room taking a nap, so I've got a couple minutes to do our thing here. All right, you guys ready? Let's light this mofo up. Could use some music just to kind of pump it up. Maybe some jock jams from the 90s. All right, let's do this. Here we go. You can hear the background music getting started. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Michael Oldroyd back in the house. I appreciate you tuning in as always, and it's been a long time since we've done a Michael Oldroyd comedy podcast episode. Episode 74 was the last podcast episode that I released, and that was pretty much the day after the Super Bowl. I can't believe it, but it's been almost 3 months now. I've been very busy, so the fact that I haven't put a podcast out there has nothing to do with laziness or anything like that. I have been grinding on all fronts, and I'm very happy to kind of sync up, if you will, right? For the iPhone users or the Android users, when you plug your phone in and you sync back up, you get all the new updates, you update your app, update your software, all these things. That's pretty much what we're going to do right now with the Michael Oldroyd Comedy Podcast. You guys excited? Awesome. All right. Let's start off by talking about not me, though, right? Because especially for the first-time listeners, why should you want to hear about me, right? I mean, I know why I want to share and why I want to talk about me, but I think that it's a bit narcissistic just to talk about me the whole time. Let's save the narcissism till the end. All right. Now let's talk about what's going on in the world. Today is May 27th, so it's almost been exactly 3 months. Like I said, February 3rd or 4th, I think, was the Super Bowl, and we're almost at June 3rd or 4th, so 3 months. Today is Memorial Day. It's been a Memorial Day weekend this year. It's always a special time, right? It's always a special time to celebrate Memorial Day and remember. I think a lot of holidays we shouldn't just celebrate that thing or be aware of that thing that day and then forget about it, right? No matter what it is, but it is a day to set aside and specifically dedicate it toward that, kind of as a mass. I talk about, depending on what religious holidays you may observe or honor, or things like Memorial Day, right? without getting too deep or too political, Memorial Day does mean a lot to me, and the older that I get, the more it means, and the more impact it has for me, because I'm sure so many of I have listeners worldwide, so the fact that I have listeners worldwide, it goes beyond the scope of the U.S., right? Memorial Day really is a United States holiday, but when you think about some of the world wars that we've participated in, that's really exactly what it affected the entire world, right? You think of World War I, World War II. This affects everybody. So regardless of where you are, I think if you're in a non-United States country and you're listening in and you're thinking, why should I observe Memorial Day? Maybe at least think back to the brave men and women who stopped the Nazi regime. We teamed up with a lot of brave people that made a lot of sacrifices during those times. And then, wars have been going on since the beginning of time, sadly, and war is a terrible thing. War is a terrible thing. And killing is definitely tragic in so many ways. And I think every once in a while you have no choice. There's a difference between murder and war, in my opinion, obviously. And when you have a choice between allowing people to do terrible things, to continue doing terrible things, or you stop them with a bullet, perhaps that's justified. But I think it takes a large toll, no matter how you rationalize it. I think that soldiers that go over there and have to pull the trigger, I think it takes a toll on everybody differently. I've never had to fight in that way. I know people who have. I also know people who have lost their lives. Friends of mine have fought. Some have come back. Some of them have died serving. But it takes a toll. A lot of our veterans come home and they have a lot of PTSD problems. There's a lot of underdeveloped programs that the U.S. government has for taking care of our veterans after they come home. And I think it just, I can't imagine the toll it takes. Yeah, man, I don't know. It's hard to articulate. We just got to appreciate the sacrifices that some of these guys have made. And, the Eureka community, for me, where I went to high school in Missouri, we've had a few people that we've lost, and it's a very personal part of my past and our past, and the losses that we've experienced. Guys like Riley Baker, he's our hometown hero. Riley is. He was a Marine. Played football for Eureka High School. He was a tough linebacker. One of the toughest dudes, if not the toughest dude I've ever known, to be honest. First state champion wrestler of Eureka High School, an untouchable dude, and just he went over there and he was fighting, and he didn't come home. So we have to think about those guys like the Matt Palazzolas and the Tom Palazzola. Tom is no longer here. I think Tom served multiple tours in overseas. And Matt's around. Shout out to Matt. I hope he's doing well in this weekend. We're thinking of you, Matt. So yeah, I'm starting the podcast off a little somber, but I think it's important to really reconnect. I think most of us have somebody that we've lost, or multiple people, or at least had to deal with some of the difficulties that come from even when our soldiers do come home. And in my world travels, some of the ways that I've been impacted most are really during the world wars. When I think in perspective, in broad ways, I've been to one of the concentration camps, Dachau, which is it's near Munich, Germany. I've also been to the beaches of Normandy, Omaha Beach, and the cemetery where thousands of white tombstones are right next to the beaches where we lost thousands of people on D-Day. And it really impacted me to see some of these places and some of the just unbelievably most evil and terrible things that you could ever imagine that happen in these concentration camps. I remember learning it's important to be aware of how terrible some people have been treated. And I was so proud, and I say this with the bottom of my heart, when I saw what took place in some of those Nazi camps. When I went to Dachau and I was looking at pictures and reading some of the things that took place and just the way that people were treated, I felt and then seeing how the American soldiers teamed up and came together and freed that place, and eventually, all the countries that stood up against, Hitler, the Axis of Evil, or I forget what it's called, but the SS Army and Hitler's, the countries that band with him. When I realized that the United States had stopped them, I was so proud. I felt the type of American pride that I hadn't felt before. And it wasn't until I went over there and saw what we had done to stop that, or what we had stopped, I guess you could say, what we had traveled over there, put our lives on the line to stop. I felt a true sense of light and connection with the United States of America when I saw that. And that's the U.S. that I always want our country to live up to. I'm not proud of everything we've ever done, domestically or overseas, but I can damn well tell you that I'm proud that we stopped those fucking Nazis. And excuse my language, but it was terrible what they did. Evil, the most vile, and just, Hitler is the fucking devil, and we stopped that motherfucker. So anyway, yeah, I'm proud of that, and I'm thankful for everything, just that our guys did. I watched the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan today. When I went to Omaha Beach, we had a tour. We learned so many things, and the tour guide said that he has spoken with some soldiers that went over there, and he asked if the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan is accurate, if it was actually that bad. And according to him, he said the guys have said that it was actually worse in real life. So count your blessings. I think any of those dudes would have given so much to be able to say goodbye to their moms, and give them a hug one last time. They died far away from home, far away from their moms, from the people that they loved, and they only were able to have them in their hearts, but they died not in vain, in my opinion. So God bless them. Something interesting that I learned while I was over there is not everybody that fought for Hitler believed in the cause. There was about 20% of Hitler's armies, and the bigger that he got and that they got, the more power, obviously, that they call him the SS. It was like the 20%, like the officers of his army that were kind of on board and carrying out and fulfilling his orders or whatever. And there were a lot of people that had no choice, either die or fight for him. A lot of young kids and, old people, just, they were just putting bodies out there, in new lands that they had conquered, So if you stood up to them or stood up to them, you died, which, what side do you fight for? Do you die the hero, which so many of our guys did when we went over there? That's exactly what they did. It was, rather than saying, "Oh, I'm going to choose my life and I'm going to fight for Hitler," they said, "Fuck Hitler. I'm going to die fighting that motherfucker." And if I have to, and that's valiant. That is warrior status. That is warrior status. So anyway, I'm starting the podcast off pretty deep today, and today's Memorial Day. So if there was ever a time to do it, I do think now is the time. But yeah, I'm thinking about you, Tom. I'm thinking about Matt Palazzola, and just appreciating all the service that anybody who's ever served. It's a multitude of ways. There's a phrase, all gave some and some gave all, and thank you for anybody who's ever served, no matter how small or big that sum is. And for those who gave all, that's thank you, so I'm going to move on. But yeah, moment of silence, to be honest, for that. Moment of silence for those guys. All right. Yeah, I know that this is a solemn mood that I've created here. So let's move on. I think that it's important to, I'm sure that I think it's important to acknowledge and then enjoy all the fruits of the labor that those guys put in, which is I live in a free country right now. We live in a world free from that terror that was created. There's a constant battle that we all have to be fighting, individually and as a country, as a world. So by no means we've got a lot of problems. The world has a lot of problems right now. But let's focus on the positive and enjoy the fact that I've got my freedom. This is what I'm choosing to do with my freedom, which is try to bring laughter and love to the world. I'm able to pursue comedy and entertainment, and I'm so thankful for that opportunity. It's so much that goes into it. I've had so many. The fact that my parents have given me such a platform to work off of, and their support, it's a good thing. So yeah, I haven't told a single joke yet or been funny, but I think that's, I think I said my piece there. And yeah, Friday night, it was the first weekend night of the Memorial Day weekend, and I was able to meet up with a buddy. I played flag football one season since I stopped playing football, which was 10 years ago. And our quarterback, we had an informal practice, met some of our new teammates. I'm going to join a flag football team, and our season starts in a couple weeks. So this summer we have a handful of games. I'm really excited about getting back into that mix. And we went out after our informal practice. Beautiful day, first day of Memorial Weekend. So many people were out in the city. It was awesome. We were by the water. And Fleet Week was last week. So if you guys don't know what Fleet Week is, it's where thousands of, people in the military, the U.S. military, come to New York and snag all the chicks. Snag all the chicks. They come decked out in their uniforms, and they're on the prowl, baby. It's fun. It's fun to watch. One of the guys on my team was saying how he doesn't like when the sailors are out, or when the guys in uniform are out, because it's too much competition for the ladies. So I thought that was pretty fun and funny, and it's a compliment to the guys in uniform, right? Of course, it's competition. They're badasses, and it's competition well deserved. So it's it's capitalism at its finest, right there, right? I'm talking about capitalism in the way that um, competition for the prize, right? Fair game for everyone, and put your best foot forward. So that was fun. I saw some ladies interacting with the dudes in uniform, and I'm single, so I wasn't upset. I was just able to sit back and be like, awesome, this is great, So yeah, that was cool. It was a great night getting out of the house and rotating the crops like that. Again, let me break down the structure of this podcast now. So what I'm gonna do is, this is probably gonna be a long one, but I'm gonna talk. My normal structure is I talk for the first bit. I talk about what's going on in the world. And then I talk about what's going on in the world of comedy, and then I talk about my world of comedy, and then my world. That way, for the new listeners, you're not gonna be bored with me talking about myself too much. I might, when I talk about things going on in the world, I might relate it to something or a story that has to do with me, but I'll get back on track and be hitting the points that have to do with that. And then toward the end, it'll just kind of be like a list of updates that are going on for people like my friends that we're all so busy, and sometimes just on your way to work in the mornings is the only time you can fill your eardrums with this. But, it feels good to fuel up, and whatever, friends, family, fans, whoever it is that you're listening to, I love you. It's all love, baby. I got that 360 love going, son, right from the core of my being. Up, down, side to side, 3 dimensions, time, space forward, backwards in time, currently in time, and forward in time, Dude, I'm just like a sphere of love, baby. Just like radiating infinitely throughout the universe. And one of the mediums that you can receive thine love is through this podcast. So thank you for tuning in. It should only wholly nourish thine soul. All right. So yeah, let's talk about what else is going on in the world. The Blues are in the Stanley Cup right now, right? Hey, blah, blah, blah. The Blues versus the Boston Bruins, excuse me. In fact, I think that game is going on right now. It's about 8:54 p.m. on Monday, Memorial Day, May 27th. I'm missing the game right now because I'm recording this freaking podcast. I'm doing the sacrifices I make for you guys. You know that? The sacrifices I make for you. But the Blues and the Bruins are in it. Boston versus St. Louis. I got to tell you, tons and tons of my friends in St. Louis are excited right now. They've been waiting, for the Blues to go to the Stanley Cup playoffs for years. Some of them their entire life. I don't know if the Blues have ever even been in the Stanley Cup. All I know is, for me and my friends that are my age, they haven't been in that time period. So it is really cool. One of my best friends, he's been on the podcast before, Tyler Schafring, just had his baby daughter for the first time, and she was born the day that the Blues beat the Sharks for the final time and earned their opportunity to go to the championship. So that's a special thing for Tyler. Give it up for Tyler Schafring, guys. His daughter Sienna was born, and hopefully we can bring home a nice little championship. Every year on her birthday, he'll always remember that it was the day that the Blues found out. I think it's destiny is what that is, guys. So it was nice getting to see him when I was in Missouri, most recently, which was just when was that, guys? Was it in May or April? I think it was April. I don't know. It was when the spring game from Missouri football was. Time flies so fast, but I was able to go and check out his diaper party. I put on a diaper myself because I didn't know what a diaper party was. I didn't realize you're supposed to bring a bunch of diapers, so I wore a man diaper and showed up to his parents' house, and I'm not sure if everyone thought it was funny. Some people thought it was hilarious. I think some people were like, what the heaven is this? Nevertheless, I think Tyler found it humorous. He was laughing, and I guess that's all that truly matters. But it was a great time, and I was able to get him some. I brought him some bags that you can clean poop with. So I did bring him something, including my presents, and we had a great time talking about whether or not Michael Jackson is guilty for the crimes, or whether or not we think he's guilty, which we'll talk about later. Talked a lot about Game of Thrones. I was disappointed. My prediction for the Game of Thrones was actually that Theon Greyjoy was going to end up sitting on the Iron Throne. Nobody agreed with that prediction. In fact, everyone thought it was really stupid. But hey, anything is possible, and the sky is the freaking limit. Yeah, so when it comes to worldly updates, a lot's happened since the Super Bowl. The Grammys happened a while back. I'm not going to talk about that because it's not relevant anymore. It's been a while, and I don't even remember who won. So Will Smith. I don't know if you get this. Is a random update. I don't know if it's really worldly, but he put out a bunch of videos on Facebook. He made these quality videos of him knocking off bucket list items, and I thought that was pretty cool. And I realized that I connect with Will Smith in one way, or at least that when I was younger, I had the same mindset of facing fears and the importance of overcoming the obstacle of fear. Right. And I do agree with him now, especially more than ever, that so many terrible things have been done in the name of fear. I mean, we already talked about it earlier. There were people fighting for Hitler because they were afraid of what would happen if they didn't fight for him. Right. So fear is the heart of evil, I believe, or allowing fear to have power. And the way that you remove the power that fear has is by facing it, by defeating it, by overcoming it, by creating fear against fear itself. Right? That's you want to boss that. That's what Batman does. Right? He becomes, the reckoning for all the bad guys. Right? He has turned fear into something that he has faced his fears by overcoming them through his fear of bats, etc. And then he is what the villains fear most. He's what the bad guys fear most until he meets his closest competitor, somebody like the Joker. I don't think the Joker necessarily is afraid of him, but the Joker is entertained by him and appreciates the courtship. It's a weird dynamic. Speaking of the Joker, Joaquin Phoenix is going to be coming out with a new version of the Joker, so that'll be exciting to watch. I don't know if you guys have seen any previews. Anyway, going back to the Will Smith thing, he did a video where he swam with sharks, which was pretty cool. I thought that was cool. He that was not in a cage either. He actually swam in shark-infested waters with a team, and put his life on the line for it. Right, the worst thing that can happen there is death, and afterwards, he felt like he had conquered that fear in something great. I recommend the idea of facing fears. It's gotten me the success that I've had in my life, and there are different kinds of fears. One of my favorite quotes is by Michael Jordan, and I'm wearing his jersey right now, number 23, Mr. Michael Jeffrey Jordan. My favorite quote, well, I've got a couple, but he ended his Hall of Fame induction speech with a quote that stuck with me, and I knew it was important because he said it last. He said, "Remember that limits like fears are often just an illusion." So really, the power that we give fear is what creates it, right? It's an illusion, So if you allow it to have power over you, if you don't step up to it, then you're creating it. So know that you can conquer those. Know that it's most likely an illusion. Know that fear that you have is most likely in your head, and that whatever you're afraid of, the consequence for whatever is usually not as bad if done in the name of good, right? Like make sure that you're not just facing fears where the consequences are hurting others. I don't think that that's fear. I think that's ill-placed, an ill-placed place to try and overcome that. Nevertheless, though, all right, I digress, I think is the appropriate term for that. There was a quote that an acting agent told me recently that Will Smith said, which is, this is not about fear, but it's important. I wrote it down. I want to say it, which is, any time that you don't spend on your dream is time basically wasted, right? So if you're not going 100% all in toward whatever it is that you're wanting to do, it's a distraction, right? And I agree with that, because when it comes to achieving goals and obstacles, you need to focus on the bullseye. And anything that you're not going directly toward that bullseye, sure, I understand we all have had to take detours or roundabout things throughout our life, but I don't know if you're courageous enough to just go straight for that bullseye and forget everything else, reckless abandon. I don't know. That's a beautiful sight to watch and to feel. I don't know if anyone's here ever felt what it feels like to throw everything to the wind and just go straight for the bullseye. I've felt it at various times in my own pursuits in life. The way I played football was exactly that. I always thought to myself, I'll figure out the rest later. I'll figure out what I'm going to do with my life later if football doesn't work out. And it all worked out. That's the cool thing about facing your fears is usually, your rational and practical mind is playing tricks on you. Got to go with that gut, baby. Got to go with that heart, son. You feel? You feel what I'm saying, Shan? So yeah, I am live streaming this podcast on YouTube right now. So follow my YouTube channel at the Droid, THEDROYD. Or I think that this channel is called LOL Droid Stories. So LOL space DROYD space stories. Anyway, so we've talked about the Blues, talked about how we're now going to talk about the Grammys, talked about Will Smith facing his fears on these Facebook videos. Game of Thrones, guys, this is more relevant than the Will Smith stuff. That was kind of me adding that in, but that's not really a trending topic worldwide. So if it wasn't right up your wheelhouse, I apologize for that. Nevertheless, though, we've got the Game of Thrones. Ooh, hey, Game of Thrones. Yeah, I saw some Subway performers performing Game of Thrones. Boy, it was awesome. It made me very aroused. I was very, very stimulated. I saw that was probably a year or two ago in New York, and then I saw some more Game of Thrones. Some people playing some Game of Thrones themes in Spain when I was in Spain with my mom last October. We were in Madrid. Hi, I'm from Madrid. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see this Real Madrid hat. I got this. I also got a Real Madrid jersey. And sure enough, they won the year before, and they won again after I bought that hat because I bought the hat. That's why Madrid won, guys, because I'm good luck, son. All right. So let's move on and talk about Game of Thrones. Everybody's sad. Everybody's sad about the ending. And guess what? I was sad too. All right. I wanted to see Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen fornicating on the Iron Throne. If you didn't, you're lying to yourself. Yeah. When she was touching that throne, I wanted him to approach, bend her over, and just rail her up the tailpipe. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. Oh, by the way, I do have to admit, I was very sad when she went crazy and started burning everybody alive. I was like, what in the heaven is this, right? Where is the writing coming from on this? This is completely atypical. I blame Jon Snow, though. I think that Jon Snow didn't give her the D when she needed it that night before, right? She was just longing for some D, and he rejected her. I don't know why he rejected her. I was talking to some people, and they think it's because they're related. So maybe Jon Snow felt weird, having intercourse with his aunt. But dude, his aunt is hot. All right, I don't know what Jon Snow is thinking. Yeah, it was a little weird. I have to admit, but I mean, there's worse porns out there that people make, right? The whole step sibling thing is an interesting genre. I guess that's more appropriate than what Jon Snow was doing, because I guess he actually was blood related to Dany. But hey, who else was? Yeah, I don't know, man. Weird stuff, you know what I mean? Come on, writers of Game of Thrones, you're just confusing us and making us ask ourselves, what in the heaven is this? But nevertheless, when she was burning everybody, yeah, that was pretty sad. You know what I mean? It is just a show, though. And when she was doing that speech in that final episode, it reminded me of that redheaded dude from Harry Potter whenever he was doing the First Order speech in Episode 7 of Star Wars. Do you guys remember that, when he was giving that First Order speech? It was badass of Dany, but again, it was like, geez, I guess someone needed a tamer. My thought is that Jon Snow should have really tamed her with that D. That's really what it's all about, right? He needed to exert his power through that D and tame her, right? And tame her, guide her down a different path. I think that her overall intentions were good. She wanted to create peace for the world, but she was going about it in a non-peaceful manner all of a sudden, and more than ever, right? So, and her plans did not sound very peaceful. So it's like, Jon Snow, give her that D and talk some sense into her. Don't kill her, you freaking putz. Yeah, what the heaven, like, freaking guide her, bruh. Step up. You have the opportunity to checkmate her because of your bloodline. Why don't you freaking step up and talk some sense into her? Why kill her, you freaking putz? I don't know. I think he could have. I think he should have tried, and he should have tried harder. He should have pushed her more, exerted that king card on her, But in the end, he's banished. Oh, by the way, Game of Thrones spoilers. I forgot to warn you guys. Sorry about that. But anyway, I didn't like how he was banished. At least he got to hang out with his redheaded buddy, And maybe they could have brought back to life his in real life wife, since she died several seasons ago. Maybe they could have brought her back from the dead, and he could have maybe had some babies with her. I don't know. I mean, he was brought back from the dead, right? Did anyone else make some sort of a Christ-like connection with Jon Snow when he was resurrected from the dead? He was a good king, came back from the dead. What? No one ever talked about that. How is that not a more talked about thing, you freaking putzes? All right, let's move on. Yeah, so Game of Thrones, it's over. People have signed a petition. They want to see different endings. That's funny. I don't think that's how it works, guys, but nice. Glad you're doing something. Glad you're spending your freedom on something constructive, Yeah, they're not gonna redo the endings, right? The best chance you're gonna get is that the writer of Game of Thrones will write a different ending to the books. That's the best it's gonna get. And if you're very lucky, maybe you'll meet Emilia Clarke and have a relationship with her and ask her to role play. Maybe do a little bit of LARPing. Is that what they call it? Where you're a little cosplay. I mean, maybe she could dress up like Daenerys for you. That's a secret fantasy of mine. Don't tell my girlfriend, but I'd love for Daenerys and I to have a night where she said, Jon Snow just won't give me the D, and I'm like, Dany, I'll give you the D. I'll give you the D. I think that that'd be a fun little thing if I could just go ahead and rotate the crops with Danny. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I don't just want to sound like one of those wild, what is it? Well, the guy is the Dothraki that she killed for being disrespectful. Danny, it would be a love-making session that I would love to offer and present if you're open to it. That's the difference between me and the Dothraki rude men. They were talking about doing it regardless of her feelings toward it. I would love to have a mutually beneficial situation where she needs that D and I'm able to provide it. All right. I'm sorry if I'm being too sexual on this podcast. I apologize. I just pretend that by D I mean, I'd give her that Daenerys. I'd give her that. I'd give her dat laughter. I'd give her some humor. Invite her to a show. Make her giggle. All right, moving on. I'd give her that comedy. Oh, all right. Let's take a quick. I'm not gonna take a quick pause. I'm just gonna pretend I'm taking a pause. Oh, we got somebody who's joined. Somebody who's watching the podcast right now. What's up? We got whoever that is. I appreciate you tuning in. All right, I'm gonna keep going. All right, so Game of Thrones. Move on. What else is going on in the world? We've got a trade war going on with China right now, so that's interesting. I was in China last year. Didn't have the greatest experience there. Sad to see that we're having a tariff battle with them, but glad that it's only a freaking tariff battle, right? Like, who cares? It's a tariff freaking battle. That's nothing, right? It's hogwash. It's hogwash. Not even a big deal. Get it out of the news, these freaking putzes. I know a guy who lives in my building who just started a business selling some sort of top shelf alcohol in China. And I was like, and I felt so cool because I know what's going on in the world. I was like, how are the tariffs affecting your business? I felt awesome, And quite frankly, he said it doesn't matter because he just charges an extra premium. So, his profits remain the same. So interesting. That's always. What else? Movies. Movies is a fun topic to talk about. You guys seen any good movies? Aladdin, I have not seen that yet. It'll be interesting. Speaking of Will Smith, of course, that he is playing the genie. A very buff genie, I heard. I don't know how people feel about buff genies, but I don't care. As long as the genie can give me the wishes, I don't care if the genie is fat, skinny, buff, tiny, short. I don't care if the genie looks like the little dwarf in Game of Thrones. In fact, that would be more appropriate because he might be able to actually fit inside of a lamp. All right. You guys seen the new Avengers movies? Because I have not. I have not seen the new Avengers movies. I'd like to, but I do not have time, so I really can't talk about that. Everyone's talking about the Avengers, though. I think that's actually old news. So if it is, I apologize. Remember, I'm talking about what's happened in the last 3 months right now, trying not to be too outdated or irrelevant. But just in case you didn't see the Star Wars trailer from like 2 months ago, that did come out for Episode 9. The movie's coming out later this year. I am very excited. Rey, will you marry me? I know that I have a girlfriend, but perhaps we could go on a double date some night. Me, you, and my girlfriend. I guess that's not really a double date. It would just be the three of us, and we could all rotate the crops, and maybe we could even invite Daenerys Targaryen to join us as a fourth person, and we could all I'm just going to give you that comedy. You know what I mean? Here's what I want to provide for you ladies. All right, let's move on. I have seen some movies on my own lately that I think are fun and worth mentioning. They're a little outdated. Forgive me. I'm all over the place. But Denzel Washington came out with a couple flicks over the last few years. It's called The Equalizer 1 and 2. Man, what a bad ace set of flicks, guys. I like the first one better, I'll be honest. The second one seemed a bit far-fetched. But Denzel Washington played this kind of, vigilante type character. It reminded me of the John Wick movies. I don't know if you guys have seen John Wick, but those are kind of like that thing where they're like commissioned, like their duty requires them to get rid of the bad guys. There's a difference between going out and killing bad guys and then protecting yourself from the bad guys killing you, right? If you go out and you kill bad dudes, you're actually bad, in my opinion, because you're casting judgment and you're killing, right? Batman does not go kill, but when people are coming after you, right, and they're trying to kill you or your family or things, and they have an agenda and they won't stop unless they die, in that case, I think that you might be having not much of a choice, but I think you may not have a choice in that situation, and the killing may be justified. It's an interesting topic, obviously, and we talked about the whole world wars. You know, we talked about wars earlier, so that line between when it's okay and when it's not is, I think there's a clear line there. You know, Superman had to kill what's his face in that one flick, and it really pained him. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie where he had to kill the villain recently. They finally had Superman kill somebody, and it's because the bad dude was trying to kill innocent people, and if he did not stop him in that moment, the only choice to stop him was to kill him. You know, I guess it was a justified kill. I don't know. Weird stuff, though, guys. Weird stuff. Weird, wild stuff. They say if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Have you guys ever heard that before? It means if you kill, you'll be killed. So, I don't know. Anyway, check out The Equalizer. Definitely a good thinker. There's some religious connotations behind it. There's some symbolism. There's a painting of the Archangel Saint Michael behind one of the scenes that he's playing, and I read some articles because I was intrigued, and they actually talked about the Archangel, and an avenging angel is kind of somewhat of a figure that they had Denzel Washington's character play. I knew this without even needing to know that. I just had that sense because, guys, you know what I'm saying? We're on that wavelength together, me and Denzel. Me and Denzel know what's up. You feel? I just got to say, if I ever meet you, Denzel, I just want to say, let's do a movie together, huh? Could we do a freaking flick together? Because I think we'd have a good time. Moving on from the Denzel Washington flicks, I checked out Venom. I tried a Starz free week. I don't know if you guys have done the free week subscription to Starz before they charge you, and then I canceled the credit card the day that they were about to charge me, and I got to watch The Equalizer flicks, and then I got to watch Venom, right, with Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy plays the good guy in this one, guys. Hey, yo, he's versatile. You know what I'm saying? So let's give it up for Tom Hardy playing Venom. That's an interesting one. He's possessed by an alien, guys. That's a thinker for you, huh? Usually possession is not not associated with a good thing, but Hollywood flipped it on us, huh? They really flipped us. They really, ran us for a loop on that one. So let's give it up for that alien possession, that the alien that became good and had a good heart, and helped Tom Hardy become a good person and defeat the bad guy. Guys, deep stuff. You know what I mean? So that was fun. And then a couple other flicks that I've watched, finishing this topic of movies. Muhammad Ali documentary. I think it was produced by LeBron James. I think there's more than one part that's coming out, but I watched the first installation of this. It's like an autobiographical version of Muhammad Ali's life, and super, super freaking interesting. That dude was intriguing to say the least. Very confident, right? Dude was on a mission, a spiritual quest, if I may, right? I'm gonna have to say I identify with Muhammad Ali in some ways. Now, I'm not Muslim, but I appreciate the good in all religions. And I think that there are a lot of ties and connections amongst them. I think it's ignorance that causes us to just, they say don't talk about politics and religion. I opened up talking about wars today and World War I and II. So I think I've pretty much ruined that. But let's just say that got what I was talking about. It must be the CTE from my football days. No, Muhammad Ali was definitely badass. I loved his competitive spirit, his confidence, his self-fulfilling prophecies. You know, he was so confident. You know, he said, "I'm the baddest man alive." I'm thinking about revealing how cocky I am on the inside after watching Muhammad Ali. I do feel that I am on a spiritual mission myself, and I am here to bring infinite love and laughter to the world. So I guess time will tell as to whether or not this premonition is correct. Nevertheless, though, Joe Biden, or no, before I go on, Mike Tyson. I watched this Mike Tyson thing on ESPN. That dude is so intriguing, man. I don't know if you guys have ever seen his HBO one-man show, but it's literally the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's funnier than 99% of the comedy specials that I've seen in my life. And it's not a comedy special. It's him talking about his life. Mike Tyson is hilarious. I think honesty is hilarious. And that's what Muhammad Ali was talking about. Like, Muhammad Ali said that when he's joking, all he's doing is his form of joking is just being extremely honest. And that's what I believe. I think honesty is such a gigantic bedrock of humor. People that are brave enough to actually be honest, it's refreshing and it's very arousing, to be honest. I found myself attracted to an 82-year-old woman once who had a great sense of humor, and I've never felt physically pulled to a woman of that age, and I was intimidated by her. She had a great sense of humor, and I felt upset with myself for not stepping up to the plate and hitting on her and asking for her number. I backed down that day, and it's unfortunate. But nevertheless, Mike Tyson, check out his stuff. Very funny dude. He talked about how he had a spiritual revelation when he tried some drug, and he met some toad in his dream, and it made me laugh. Like, him meeting some toad in his hallucination like changed his life. And like, he talked about how his ego and his pride created the famous person that he was, but he doesn't really like that person, but at the same time he doesn't like the ego and pride version of himself, because it led to him being someone who he doesn't want to be, wanting the limelight and all these things. But he also loves that person because it helped him like eat and become who he is. But he's real chill now. He's pretty docile, smokes a lot of marijuana. But the thing that really stood out to me that I thought was special was when he started talking about love and his wife, and he talked about how the love of his life is his wife, right? Out of all the things that he's accomplished and done and all these things, he said that the love of his life is his wife, and he said that he's not good enough for her, and that she has won the race in life over him, that she knows of all his terrible things, loves him for it, and all the things he's done, and loves him regardless. And he genuinely, he wasn't bullshitting. You can tell when Mike Tyson doesn't bullshit. He was not just saying that because it sounds good. He was saying genuinely that he thinks his wife is better than him and that he's infinitely lucky to have her. And I thought that was really special and big of him, really, to admit that, to admit that he feels that way, at least. And Mike Tyson is a creature that I'd like to meet as well. Mike Tyson, if you're out there, let's get together and do a comedy special. Same with Denzel Washington. Let's do a flick together, huh? We can create The Equalizer 3. That'd be a lot of fun. All right. Let's see here. Joe Biden is running for president. Hey, don't talk about religion or politics. Guys, what is Joe Biden doing? You know what I mean? we live in a very weird world right now. Joe Biden, I don't think even knows what's going on. He's a nice guy. Joe Biden reminds me of the type of dude that we all have a Joe Biden in our family. He's a good dude. He's not the most successful person in the family, but we all like him. You know what I mean? He's like that one dude that's just there. He's smiling, right? You don't always know what he's saying when he talks, but you always smile. You always laugh at his jokes because you know he's got a good heart. He's not the most successful. Couldn't survive on his own, you know. But he's definitely a warm spirit. He's a good person to have around. Not sure if he is an appropriate person to be the president of the United States. Nor is Donald Trump. So, I mean, I don't know. We live in a... Did you guys see, speaking of politics, did you guys freaking see that endorsement that John Voight put out on Twitter recently? What in the heaven was that? This dude got on Twitter and he created this like perfect video about how Donald Trump is the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln. And it's like, who put a gun to his head and had him make that video? It's so random and out of nowhere. And I really think that I think it's the trailer for Enemy of the State too. I don't know if you guys have seen Enemy of the State with Will Smith, but John Voight was the villain. And once again, I think he's the villain. I think he's teamed forces with Trump, and they're making a second movie called Enemy of the Union. So you guys got to check that out. It's definitely going to be entertaining for you. What else? Joe Biden is running for president against Bernie Sanders. That is fun. Great stuff. Great stuff. Is Bernie Sanders running? I'm not sure. I'd like to know. I think that'd be a fun thing to watch them debate each other. We live in a unique time. I'd like to see Bernie Sanders is unique, man. All right, I'm gonna move on from politics. You guys are awesome. I've got people tuned in right now. All right, so the next thing on the agenda as I'm finishing up what's going on in the world, I have to talk about my dad's CD. It's called The Journey. It is Mark Lee Oldroyd on flugelhorn, timbre. You can find it anywhere on the internet, Spotify. I think anywhere except iTunes right now, but just type in The Journey and type in Mark Oldroyd, MarkOldroyd. You can buy the CD. My dad he's worked so hard on this, and there's a picture of him on the back. This is where we live in Missouri, by the way. This is where my parents live. The street where I used to run up and down constantly, training for football when I was younger. So I used to run up those hills like Walter Payton and Jerry Rice. They inspired me to do hill running. So we had our own version of hills in Wildwood, Missouri. The name lives up to how it sounds. It's a very wild wood area. It's called The Journey. And then if on the front of this cover, if you notice, it's like basically like an area where you see New York on one hand, or the big city, and then you see like this cool like nature, trees and stuff. And if you look closely, it's actually in the shape of a guitar. So yeah, my dad's been to New York. He's experienced the big city. He moved to LA, lived in there. He lived out in LA pursuing music for a long time. He's a great trumpet player. He served in Memorial Day. Speaking of, he actually played trumpet in the Army band. He was during the Vietnam era. He would go around. He would play taps for the soldiers. Usually on Memorial Day, my dad will go out and he'll play taps in the backyard here in Missouri, and you can hear it for miles because we live in an area where it's pretty quiet and the sound travels because of the valley. And it's beautiful. It's one of those deals where when you hear it, you don't even want to like say anything afterwards. You don't want to say good job. You don't want to say, wow, that sounded great, because it almost ruins how special it is. You just have to like move on with your day. So my dad has been able to serve. That's an important part of service, is honoring the fallen properly. And taps is, it's a special song. I don't know if song is the right word, but it's a special, set of sounds. And yeah, check out this deal here. It's pretty fun. My dad was a crazy crazy story here. He's in LA right now. He's meeting with some of his old music friends, and last time I think we were in LA together, he took me to the Playboy Mansion. He used to work for Playboy, so I got to go meet his old boss who's still working there and get a tour of the Playboy Mansion. And who else can say that their dad was the one that got him into the Playboy Mansion? They rarely let guys in there, and they have some Playboy comedy show. I need to look into doing that sometime. That'd be pretty fun, you know. But I got some free CDs while I was there. Got to meet a couple Playboy bunnies. And by that, I'm talking about the bunnies in the zoo part. They actually have little bunny rabbits. So that was pretty cool. I wonder if those rabbits celebrate Easter. You know what I mean? I wonder if Playboy bunnies celebrate Easter. You know what I mean? All right, let's move on. So a couple other things going on in the world. The Michael Jackson documentary. Me and my friends are always arguing about whether or not we think that stuff is true. Everybody tells me hands down it's true. They get mad at me for thinking it's not. There's some stuff that's come out. Let me just say this. There's a video that came out not long ago that talks about the people in that documentary and how that one of them is like a pathological liar. And it kind of gives evidence and things like that. So really, who knows if it's true? I will not defend a pedophile, but I will not convict somebody of a crime without truly knowing, right? There's a phrase out there that only God can judge. And I believe that part of that is because you have to know everything before you can actually convict somebody. Just because you see something on TV does not make something real. In fact, that's a very dangerous thing to think, is that just because you see it on TV that it's automatically real. We saw the Ted Bundy movie with Zac Efron recently. My girlfriend and I watched that. Has anybody seen the Ted Bundy movie? What the heck? You know what I mean? Friggin' Zac Efron playing Ted Bundy? That's some weird stuff. You know what I mean? That is some weird stuff. Do you guys think Ted Bundy's guilty? Apparently, it's pretty clear. But I don't know the whole story behind it. So apparently they have an entire thing on Netflix about Ted Bundy as well. And I will say it was interesting watching Zac Efron. That dude, let's give it up for the range of Zac Efron's acting. You know what I mean? Starting off as a Disney thing, now playing Ted Bundy. I mean, that's range. He also played a Marine in some like Nicholas Sparks movie. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he like played a Marine that came home and was. I wanted to throw up when I saw that because I was like, dude, Zac Efron does not get the right to play a Marine, right? Like, this is the most soft bullshit I've ever seen. But I know, I'm not hating on Zac Efron. I think he'd be a fun person to hang out with. I'd have a beer with him and go hit on chicks if I was single. I have no problems with Zac Efron, but I do have a problem with him playing a Marine in a movie. That's my only complaint. Everything else I don't care about. But whoever cast that, you need to get your thumb out of your buttocks and recast that movie. I'm gonna start a petition the way they did for Game of Thrones to remake that movie with a different actor and have Marines played by people that are a little bit more legit at someone that has earned that status. So anyway, going back to a couple things that have happened again over the last couple months. Mike Prince, if you're out there, will you please respond to my freaking calls? Mike Prince was a football player at Mizzou. He was one of my buddies. Dropped off the face of the earth. He moved over to England. He played rugby for a while after football, and he was like a professional rugby player. Met a girl, settled down. I caught up with him on Skype one time a couple of years ago, and his voice had changed. He's got an English accent now, which was hilarious. He wasn't joking. It was a real English accent. So we had so many good, deep conversations. Last time I talked to him or connected with him on Facebook, he was living in Christchurch. So I hope he's okay. I hope that you guys, if anybody knows of Mike Prince's whereabouts, let me know if he's good. I don't know. Maybe he's living somewhere else, but I hope he's doing okay. He didn't respond to my text or my Skype. got a different number. Somebody else said wrong number now. So yeah, hit me up, Mike. I hope you're doing well. We had some good conversations about philosophy and life in the past. He talked about how something that was interesting that Mike Prince and I talked about was how the emperors of Rome used to hire one person, or one person's job was dedicated just to remind the emperor every once in a while, remember that you're mortal. I think that that's really cool. That would have been my job, right? Because I would have like fooled around and done all kinds of crazy stuff. I think that was pretty much my job at my last company. I worked for one of my buddies, and I think my job was just to remind him and help him remember that he's mortal. You know, he did pretty well financially, and I think somebody just needed to make sure that his ego, just to release the pressure there every once in a while and let him know that he's mortal. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that would have been my job back in the old days, was to remind the emperor that he's mortal in some way, shape, or form. Oh, is that a threat? I don't know. I don't know. You know? All right. What else? The immigration problem. I saw a shirt recently that said Muhammad, Jesus, and Mary are all immigrants. I thought that was pretty cool. I think it's a good reminder for all of us to be aware of. In fact, I recently did a show. Somebody else hit me up because of a positive promotion that they heard about me. And there's a Muslim comedy show here in New York, and they asked me if I'd perform for their show, which that's going to be coming up. That's pretty cool. Yes, I am performing in that. You can probably see it on Facebook somewhere. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, I forget the name of it. We'll talk about it in the future. Nevertheless, though, this is a random point, and I apologize because it's kind of out of character, but I just want to say people on social media don't have souls or know who they are. They just want attention. That's a bullet point that I wrote down. I don't actually think that word for word, but hear me out. I think sometimes people just want attention and they won't even say what their true opinions are on something. They just want to like align themselves with what's trending. I know this because I've done it before. No, it's important to speak your truth. You know what I mean? And, you know, just because Barcelona wins the freaking World Cup doesn't mean you update your status in Spanish and start bragging about how you studied abroad in Spain for 4 years. All right. That's my, I've seen that before. I wanted to throw up. Don't be a sunshine patriot. You know, sure, if certain experiences happen that bring things out and that you relate to. I guess I'm just hating. I don't think she actually did anything wrong. If she actually studied abroad and can speak Spanish, what am I talking about? You guys get what I'm saying, though. There's some people out there that just are selling their souls for some Instagram followers. By the way, if you guys wouldn't mind following me on Instagram, I'd greatly appreciate it. My @ is the droid, THEDROYD. Awesome. Thank you. I'm on Snapchat as well. I put a funny Snapchat of my girlfriend recently telling me who her favorite athlete is. You guys will have to check it out. My Snap is the droid. Anyway, so we talked about some fun stuff here, right? We talked about some fun stuff. I don't believe everything I hear in the news. I'm not saying I believe that everything is just fake news, but you gotta do some research. You know what I'm saying? What is the credibility of the source? You know, just do you believe everything you read, guys? You gotta trust your gut. You gotta trust your heart. I trust that more than empirical data. No, I'm kidding. I think it's important to have a good blend of, you know, objective, qualitative research. Is it? I don't know. Empirical data. You gotta have a good blend. I saw the funniest status yesterday from Usama Siddiqui. He said, people that wear flip-flops, he's like, I assume that people that wear flip-flops in New York are insanely religious because they definitely don't believe in the science of germs. I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah. That was a very funny status to me. Anyway, yeah, I don't believe there was a football player that was accused of like rape and stuff. I think his name was Sean Oakman, was it? Baylor football, and he ended up going to jail and for like a few years, and his football career was ended. And then it came out that the girl was making it up. So I've talked about it in the past. We don't live in a world where it's innocent until you're guilty until proven innocent. You have to have facts. You can't just believe. Just anyone can say something. I could get up here and say I found a Super Bowl ring, in the Hudson River yesterday. It was crazy. Can you guys believe I found a Super Bowl ring? Like I brought it back. There was only one little scratch on the back, but I could probably sell this thing for like 10 grand. It was a Patriots ring. I don't even know how a Patriots ring. It's like people can say anything. You know what I mean? So you got to be careful. Speaking of football, though, the last worldly update that I wanted to talk about is how the NFL draft happened recently in Memphis, Tennessee. Or was it Nashville? I was actually in Memphis during that time. I couldn't. It was for work-related stuff. Was it business? Was it comedy? I don't know. But nevertheless, I was down in that area. I couldn't make it to the draft, but a lot of Mizzou football players have been drafted. Drew Lock got drafted by the Broncos. Very exciting stuff. The whole NFL thing in football has been a thing that I'm going to talk about at the end of this podcast today. But it's a very relevant thing for my life right now. And I think it's very interesting to let you guys know that there was actually a Missouri football player that was waiting outside the North Carolina Panthers stadium recently saying, "We'll tackle for hot dogs." So he's like looking to walk on. He's trying to get the opportunity to try out for the Panthers, which I think is awesome. And I don't like that he stole my idea. Wait until the end of the podcast to hear more. All right. What's going on in the world of comedy? Or was that all I want to talk about with what's going on in the NFL? Drew Lock. Odell Beckham left the Giants. The Giants quarterback position is okay. So yeah, you guys all know Odell left. He's with the Browns now. Great, whatever. It'll be interesting to see the wide receiver position. The Giants obviously are going to need some help. And then what kind of freaking draft pick was that quarterback? The Daniel guy? I looked him up on Twitter. He had like 2,000 followers on Twitter. That's how much of a no-name he is, which I'm not putting that down. I don't have 2,000 followers on Twitter. Please follow me on Twitter at the Droid. But it's like interesting. Let's see what this guy can do. I think that they everybody is like, why did they draft him? I think that the Giants know something that other people don't. He must be a diamond in the rough, and have the characteristics to be successful in the Giants program. He must have some similar. I don't know if they're trying to build for the future with like another Eli Manning, and he has like those traits, or what kind of strategy was behind that pick, but it definitely wasn't a predictable pick. So I'd like to be catching footballs from that guy soon is what I'm trying to say. Last thing I'll say about what's going on in the world, I read this thing today, and I thought it was really interesting. It said NBA business programs are closing down, frankly, because they're losing money, which I have my thoughts on higher education. But yeah, that's crazy. Another article related to that is millennials aren't saving because of fear that the planet is doomed. So a lot of millennials aren't saving as a result of that. Very interesting. That's what I call giving up. So quit being such freaking wusses, Believe in the. If you think that the planet is doomed, then do something about it to not make it doomed. Right? Like, help out, bruh. Yeah. All right. That's my thought on that. All right. What's going on in the world of comedy? GMA. Oh, so I went to the Good Morning America on February 11th. There were some pictures I posted on Facebook and Twitter. Got to meet one of the main ladies on that show. The Game of Thrones chick was there that day. Cersei was there, and I was like, whoa. She kind of. It would have been cool to meet her, but I didn't get to meet. She walked right past. Actually, we did make eye contact. I think she was attracted to me. I'm not just saying that, but I think that Cersei was kind of attracted to me at the Good Morning America thing. So that was interesting. What else? Yeah, that was a cool experience. I made a sign for my dad. I didn't get to bring the sign in. They said no signs in Good Morning America. So unfortunately I didn't get to share with the world that I love my dad on national TV. But yeah, my girlfriend made that sign, which I really appreciated. Some nice arts and crafts. She's got skills, is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, so yeah, at least I posted the picture of me holding the sign on Facebook and tagged my dad in it. So that's the best I could do as far as getting that sign out there. But you know what? Did what I could, right? So yeah. So by the way, save some money, you freaking millennials. All right, let's move on. A while back, I went to the Seth Meyers show. I won this dance off before the show, so that was pretty fun. I did my robot for all the people, and I won this dance competition at the Seth Meyers thing. And yeah, it was fun, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. My girlfriend came with me. It was a good energy. It was after the State of the Union that we had a while back. So I watched the State of the Union when Trump presented that, just so I could get the jokes that Seth Meyers and his team was going to tell after the State of the Union. They basically had the show later that night and wrote all the jokes in the moment that night because of the State of the Union. So that was pretty impressive. I got to ask Seth Meyers a question. They had a Q&A session in there, and I raised my hand and I said, "What do you love most about doing comedy?" And people started giggling at me. They weren't even laughing with me. They were like, "What kind of dumb question is that?" I think they were judging me, but I think it's an awesome question. And he even looked thrown off by the question, which was weird. But he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "I guess it just came natural. I couldn't do other things in life." So not the answer that I would like to hear, to be honest. I personally do comedy because I like making people laugh. I can do plenty of things. I'm pretty athletic and talented, So taking a quick sip of my Vita cocoa water. Vita cocoa water, you should pay me for just throwing out your name and endorsing you. That's what I do. I'm a pretty nice guy. All right. What else? Adam Sandler hosted Saturday Night Live a couple weeks ago. I went out super early in the morning, the day after my girlfriend's birthday, to try and get tickets. And I tried to wait in the standby line and all that crap. And I did not get in those freaking putzes, I was really upset. I would have loved to see Sandler. There was a charity thing where you could donate some money, and potentially, if you won some charity, you could meet Pete Davidson and Sandler. I thought about donating to that, and then I ran out of time. I forgot about it. So I don't have an exciting piece of news for you guys on that. But I did watch the show at home, and I thought it was pretty cool that Sandler gave the Chris Farley tribute. Just a wholesome dude Sandler is, I think that's one of the reasons we love the guy so much. He's just got a good heart, and he doesn't forget to do good things like that, and honor his bro Christopher. So yeah, I thought that was really cool, and yeah, hopefully I can get back to hey, Adam Sandler, if you're out there, let's do a movie together. You down? I'd love to. I'm not being sarcastic. Jim Carrey, you too. I'd love to rotate the crops and get in the flick with you. I don't know if you. Yeah, man, I appreciate your art, Jim. Appreciate your art. It's fun. I see you expressing yourself through that medium, man. Caught up with a buddy recently who works for NBC. That was pretty fun. He's on the news. We had fun. Shout out to my boy Wale Alayu from Mizzou. He was on my 30th birthday podcast, the Sausage Festival podcast. We caught up recently. We talked. It was great to catch up with him. Solid dude right there. News guy. Hey guys, he's like Jim Carrey from the movie Bruce Almighty, right? Go check out that flick. Speaking of both of those guys, you know. Anyway, Paul Rudd hosted Saturday Night Live to end the season of SNL. He did like a best man wedding type speech as his monologue. Fun stuff, Paul. I feel like you seem like the type of dude that's given a couple best man wedding speeches. Is that true? Hit me up. DM me, bro. At the Droid. THEDROYD. All right. Let's take a quick sip of this coconut water. I don't know if you guys can hear, but my girlfriend's talking in the background. Let me just sort of tame her real quick. Hey, Jessica. Yeah. I can hear you. I'm recording a podcast in here. Can you keep it down a little bit? Okay. Can you just keep it down a little bit, please? Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. That's how you crack the whip. You know what I'm saying? That's how you crack the whip right there, son. All right. So what's going on in my world of comedy? Because that's pretty much it. Louis C.K., I haven't heard much about him recently as far as the world of comedy goes. Theo Vaughn, I saw him in New York recently. I performed for pretty much a sold-out crowd at Caroline's. Got to see him for a second and reconnect. Who else? What else is going on? Aziz Ansari. Haven't really heard much about him. Aziz, I saw him at Comedy Cellar. I think I told you guys this. Last time I was at the Comedy Cellar with my girlfriend, we were having ice cream there. And I saw Aziz, and I just kind of gave him a head nod. It didn't look like he wanted to interact. I think he didn't look the healthiest. I don't know, man. I think everything's taking a toll on him. I kind of feel for the guy. You know, I don't know, man. Some crazy stuff. I'm not putting him down. He's always been nice to me. Positive words. Truth be told, he's always been nice. That was the only time I've ever seen. I know he doesn't recognize me. I've seen him like 5 or 6 times over the last 10 years at random places in New York. And every time he's been nice, and this last time he looked just like disgusted at life, you know? So I hope he's doing okay. I hope he's getting his nourishment. Keep eating, Aziz. And make sure you're flossing and taking regular dumps. You know, those are all going to help out. Take some Metamucil if you get constipated, and just try to make sure you're getting enough calories each day. You didn't look that healthy. I love you, and I think you're going to bounce back, dude. I think you're going to bounce back. You know, you took the bullet for a lot of guys, and for a lot of girls too. I think everyone's been thinking about that stuff, you know, as a result of some of the things that went down. A lot of food for thought, a lot of conversations transpiring over the last couple of years. All right, I'm gonna take another sip of this water and move on. Anything else going on in the world of comedy, Mike? I'm not sure. I'd say comedy specials on Netflix. I haven't really watched much of those lately. Saturday Night Live. Gerard Carmichael has a new thing out. He was a dude that I consider myself one of his friends, actually. Not a close friend, but Gerard, as you guys know, back when he was just an open micer, traveling around trying to do open mics at the Improv and Comedy Store in LA. He was always a nice dude. I was always excited to see him. He had a warmth to him, and there was a lot of the scene was very cliquey. You could tell like that up and coming scene. A lot of the dudes were like super judgmental, but he was like the friendliest and nicest one. And I love that he's the one that became successful. That's how cool. That's what's up. You know what I mean? So shout out to Gerard Carmichael, man. I hope. I haven't seen that new Netflix thing, but hopefully you're getting some good views and making some money, bro. You know? So, let's talk about my world of comedy, guys. we're at a good place to, if you need to stretch or take a quick break or turn off the podcast, I'll leave that in your hands. Whatever you need or want to do, just know that I want to have intercourse when the time is right. All right, let's talk about what's going on in my world of comedy. Droid Entertainment is up and running. It is recognized by the state of New York. I'm very excited about. Oh, by the way, Namish Patel. Speaking of what's going on in the world of comedy, he was kicked off stage for doing a college show, and then now he's doubled down. I've seen him perform a couple of times, and he's doubled down. And he uses that bit in his performance. He even hosted the NACA. He was hosting one of the NACA showcases that I was at NACA, the national convention this year, and he talked about it in his showcase in front of thousands of college students. So that was interesting to see such a double down type thing. Yeah, so what's going on? Yeah, Droid Entertainment is buzzing, baby. I'm going back to Mizzou. Let's start off with stand-up when it comes to my world of entertainment. We'll talk about stand-up, then improv/sketch, then acting, right? So when it comes to stand-up, I've been booked by the University of Missouri. I'm going to go back at the end of the summer here to perform for the business incoming freshmen, the business school. And I'm very excited. I'm going to do an hour, a Q&A session about my time there, and talk about obviously the football program, the business school, going and joining a startup and working for a friend that the startup became super successful. Didn't I make a joke about him earlier? Reminding my friend that he is mortal. And then talking about what's like pursuing comedy and blah blah blah. So yeah, that's really exciting. I'm honored to go back and do that. And while I'm in Missouri, I'm gonna try to do a couple shows. I'm maybe rent a small place in St. Louis. Do a show for my St. Louis friends. Do a show in KC while I'm there. Do the Mizzou, and then one down in Cape Girardeau. My buddy Paul Stimmerman and Jamie Lee. Longtime track and field teammates from Eureka High School are living down there. It'd be fun to rotate the crops for my boy Paulie and company, So if you're down in any of those areas, if you're in Missouri at all, start marking those dates for the end of August. I'll be back and lighting up the stage in the Mo, the show me state, son. All right. Did the show at the Gotham Comedy Club recently, Comedians on the Loose. It was a lot of fun. The bookers there, the producers of the show were awesome. It was a packed house, sold out, not a single open seat. And, they were able to record the set professionally. We got to hang out afterwards and swap stories. Comedians on the Loose, solid show, guys. You got to go check it out. If you're a fan of comedy, check it out. If you're a comedian and you can get booked on that show, it's a great opportunity, in my opinion. It's a great show. It was a pleasure to be able to do it, and definitely worth checking out. So yeah, they featured me on their website, and they do this thing where they use like a 1-minute joke like once a week or once a month and feature one of their acts, and they featured one of my jokes just this last week and put it out there. So that was pretty cool that they did that. It gave me some nice promo. They even publicly said you should book Michael Oldroyd. So I immediately got hit up, and that's why I'm going to do that Muslim show that I told you about, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so what else? What else, you freaking putts? Been doing a lot of shows around the city. Perform at Dangerfield sometime. Obviously, LOL in Times Square, as you guys know. Random spots around the city, hostels, etc. When I go to new towns, I usually get on stage there. It's pretty. I'm 14 years in now, so I've got a decent resume, and it's getting easier and easier to get stage time at places. More and more doors open. In fact, from time to time, people just come to me, hitting me up, want to know if I can perform, and if I'm free, cool. If not, whatever. But monetizing, monetizing this thing, and it's just an exciting time. The momentum is continuing, and I'm continuing to put fuel in the tank and continuing to, get gas mileage on that journey, baby. So I think I'm getting better. I feel like I'm getting better at stand-up comedy, transitioning to being able to be more and more comfortable on stage and tell more and more stories that are real and really connect with audiences. So it's a lot of fun. And if you're at a college, and you want to have me come out, hit a brother up. If you're not at a college and you want to have me come out and do some comedy, hit a brother up. I'm breaking into the corporate market right now, so if you have a full-time job and your company ever has corporate events, hit a brother up. I'm gonna come out and create some humor. I can do 60 minutes of clean material, you freaking mofo. If you need me to do comedy on the plane, like if you're flying somewhere and you want me to get up and do 5 minutes of humor, I'll do an hour of material on the Southwest flight at the front of the thing where the steward eye are. If you want me to create some humor there, I'll do some nice little crowd work and make fun of the people in the front, and we'll have some intercourse afterwards. It'll be great. We'll get up in the Mile High Club. So definitely keep me on your radar. Keep me abreast. Keep me abreast, you freaking putz. All right, that's what I call my girlfriend. It's a term of endearment. Now, when I call you a putz, it means I love you. So you're a freaking putz. Thank you for listening. All right, let's. The show's not over. I know I'm talking forever, but let me just take a sip of this freaking Vita Coco. My mom's dog's name is Coco. My mom's dog, her name is Coco. So yeah. Anyway. Oh man. So yeah, I did the NACA thing in Columbus, Ohio. Got to hang out with some of, Chris James he was showcasing. Got to hang out with him and some others like Matthew Broussard was there. He had, very humble dude, very smart. A lot of success in comedy. I'm sure you guys all know Matt Broussard. I was lucky to have him do my show. I don't produce any shows right now as far as stand-up goes, but he did my show like a year ago, and it was kind of cool to see how this whole thing had come full circle. I was able to catch up with him. Super nice, and just listening to guys like Chris James and Matthew Broussard and some of the others who are having successful careers in NACA and outside of NACA, it's just very helpful, and I'm very thankful to be a fly on the wall sometimes and listen to the veterans who they've been deeper in the trenches than I have in some ways, and they've had, Matthew's had a lot of success. He's been on Comedy Central, Conan, Jimmy Fallon. He's been all over. So very cool. He performs at the Comedy Cellar. Just really cool stuff. And I got getting to hang out with a lot of people like that down at NACA. We had a boys trip down there. There was like four of us, me, Chris, and a couple other dudes. And we, it was like, I felt like it was a track and field meet or something, like back in high school or when I was at Mizzou. It's like a smaller team, right? It's a team, but it's like a smaller team. And then your performance, it's still like an individual performance. So, comedy reminds me of track and field in a lot of ways. It's an interesting thing. I'm able to draw from my sports experiences, all the things that I've learned over the years, and apply it toward this comedy business and entertainment. And, it's very fun. So, yeah. That was around Valentine's Day. My buddy Danny and his wife, Danny Helliger. If you guys remember Danny Helliger, the guy we had the episode where we were talking about Homeward Bound and dogs, and he's got the dog named Mari. He came out to New York. He's been having a lot of success doing his thing. So I got to see him for a little bit right around the Valentine's Day period. After I celebrated with my chick, also celebrated my birthday with my chick. Oh, what else did I'll have to catch up with the personal stuff afterwards. So yeah, bear with me. I don't think anyone's going to listen this long, but it's nice to just get this all out there. It's like a nice, this is the pensive to my mind, or whatever they call it. When Dumbledore takes those like thoughts and memories out of his head and he puts them in that bowl. Well, this is that for you guys. This is my pensive, right? This is not even a podcast because it's too much information. But you guys are taking a deep dive into the current cross section of thine mind, right? So with that said, yeah, I learned a lot going back to NACA. I'm getting fans starting to pop up here and there on the radar. I feel like my comedy career is like when you try to boil water, you know, like you turn on the thing and then you start to see these little bubbles accumulate here and there. And that's kind of what it feels like with my fans. I feel little bubbles matriculating or popping up on the radar, and it's kind of an exciting little deal, and it's increasing in its pace. It's you know, it's growing. The bubbles are happening more frequently, you know, and yeah, I say where I'm performing, and people just show up. You know, people show up from places, and it's pretty exciting. It always arouses me and makes me extremely horny. No, but yeah, last time I performed, tonight's Monday, so I took a couple days off. Saturday night I performed at LOL. It was such a fun show. It was the early show, so it was like a clean show. There was kids there, and I had so much fun on stage, and people just wanted to meet me afterwards. It was so cool. Like, by the way, this is where the narcissist part of the show starts. So I pretty much talked about what's going on in the world. Now I'm going to talk about me. Again, this is the pensive to my mind. Now I'm just like free flowing. So forgive me. My girlfriend can't even listen to this. She'd be sick of it by now. So if you guys are troopers. You're doing better than her. But yeah, so I got to meet people after the show, and just it meant a lot, you know, like when you do a show and people leave and they've got like that light in their eyes afterwards. There's like this light there, right? And it's like they're excited to meet you, and they're curious, and you know, like nervous to say, hey, can I get a picture with you? Or oh, if I'm like, it was cool to meet you, and they want to know where they can see me or find me online. You know, like those types of things are very gratifying. And you know, when people leave happy, that's why I do what I do, you freaking putz. I do it because I want to make you happy. I want to make, and when I say you, I'm talking about you, motherfucker. Like everyone who's listening, as an individual, as a collective, like I want people to leave happy. That's why I do what I do. When I get off stage and people are genuinely excited and they had a good time, like then I did my work. Then you know, God's purpose for me was fulfilled on that day. You know, so it's very gratifying to have that and to see that. One lady, I'm not trying to brag here, she asked me if I'm single. I said no, I'm in a relationship. She said regardless, she wants me to be her stepson. She's like, can I show you a picture of my daughter? You know, she shows me a picture of her daughter. She's like, don't be surprised if she shows up at one of your shows or on your doorstep. You know, I'm like, oh my Zeus. That's very exciting and slightly arousing. So thank you. But, you know, that's funny. So that's how that show went. And it was definitely, like I said, it was a doozy, right? So I've got an audition coming up with NBC. Coming up in a couple months. Been looking into, you know, speaking with a dude who works at Comedy Central and scouts stand-up comedy talent. I don't have any updates on that front, so I'm not sure where that stands, but I do have an audition locked in for NBC. And with NBC, America's Got Talent. There was someone who works with America's Got Talent that actually found me and reached out to me and was asking me some questions not long ago. Though I have my business, Droid Entertainment, I also have a college agent now that we're going to work together on some of these college bookings, which I'm very excited about for NACA. And then I don't have really any updates on my acting agent. I don't have any. All I have is update-wise is that I have an updated reel and a bunch of, you know, like my resume and all that stuff is cool. I've got new footage from the Midwest Sketch Bandits that I'm able to use for my reel for castings through Backstage and through the acting agent that I have. But I don't have any like acting gigs on the radar per se, other than the stuff that we're creating ourselves at the moment. But I will talk a little bit more about some cool stuff that happened in the acting world recently here in a second. So what else? We had improv and sketch. I'm a part of a team called Too Nice. We originated from the UCB advanced study class that we all took. It was Organic Heralds with a dude named John Timothy Williams. I've had him a few times, really like him. And we started having improv practices because we wanted to prepare for an upcoming audition at the UCB for the academy. And we started practicing, and then all of a sudden we got some opportunities to have some performances. So we actually have had a couple shows now at the Pit Loft. I don't know if you guys have been to the Pit before, but we actually hosted a few shows. So when I say, I don't mean that we were featured on shows, but one of the members of our group actually took it upon herself to have the entire show be us that we host. And it was a variety show. So we did some stand-up. We had a couple stand-up acts that I've helped out with that. We've had improv showcase that we've been able to do, and then actual like sketches. So it's like a variety show of sketches, improv, and stand-up, where we've actually rehearsed for the sketches. We utilize the things we've learned for our improv, been able to showcase some of our comedians that do stand-up. So we have more shows coming up. We have one next Sunday night at the Pit, the Big Pit, whatever that is. I don't even know what it's called off the top of my head. We've got a couple shows coming up with the Too Nice variety show. So, that's very exciting. It's fun. I'll be doing stand up at the one on Sunday night. I'm doing like a 20 to 30 minute set to close the show for stand up. So very excited about that. And that's really the main update, is that, I have a boner. All right, moving on. Acting. What's going on in the world of acting? Well, I told you about the agent, updated reel. I had a scam agent hit me up recently. So watch out for scam agencies if you guys are trying to get an agent. Just because someone hits you up doesn't make them legit or credible. You gotta trust your gut, do some research, do a little empirical data research. But I was on a couple shows recently, at least my face was, and you could hear my voice a little bit, but I was on the Blacklist. Spicy here and didn't want to piss off. Hold on one second. Jessica. Okay, whatever. My girlfriend's doing stuff in the background. Anyway, so I was on the Blacklist. Did what was it called? Background work there, and I snuck onto the set. So they told everyone where to stand, and then I just snuck behind one of the guys that the camera was on, just like I did when I was playing football in the zoo, sneaking behind Coach Pinkle so I could get a little TV time. So, it worked. My face was like on the Blacklist, and my parents were really excited. My mom found it. I don't have the time to watch that stuff. I don't watch the Blacklist, but my mom found me, and it was fun. And then a couple of weeks later, same thing for Summer House. My nieces actually found it. They watched that show, so that was really nice of them. And they said that it was like really exciting. They saw me on a preview for the upcoming episode, and it looked like it looked like I would have a bigger part in the show than I did, but it was cool. They still used my face in the preview to create some potential drama to be a teaser for the show. But yeah, I mean, you can see my face. You could barely hear me, but I guess you could say those are like lines. I don't know. Either way, it was fun. My girlfriend, I got to give her credit for helping me get on that show. It was her connection to the Hamptons that allowed us to do that. And, it's funny because on the show I'm getting a girl's phone number, and my girlfriend is the one who was like encouraging it, and then she got mad at me afterwards once it actually went on TV, you know. So it's like, I did this because you told me to, you gave me the opportunity, you opened the door for it, and now you're mad at me for taking advantage of an opportunity that you presented. Anyway, it's funny. She's a funny creature. I don't know what she's doing right now. She's probably secretly listening through the door, but super fun stuff. It was cool to get on those shows and get a little bit of buzz. You know, it's good to get some buzz, right? Hey, all right. Midwest Sketch Bandits. That's something definitely worth talking about. The Midwest Sketch Bandits. You guys got to follow us online, man. We've been making a ton of videos. We've got some more coming out. It's the Midwest Sketch Bandits. 4 words. There's 4 of us, right? And we're all from the Midwest. And yeah, I mean, we're on YouTube. We definitely could use the YouTube subscribe, so if you could follow us there. And then we got a Facebook group, Instagram page. I think the Instagram is actually at Midwest Sketch Bandits, if I'm not mistaken. And then Twitter is MW Sketch Bandits. I know that's confusing. Forgive me to have all the different stuff, but there's a reason why I couldn't do it the other way around. Nevertheless, though, we are going to create some other cool stuff. Like, we might be making a short film soon that Dom wrote. Dom wrote like this 15-minute short film that we may be making. And yeah, we got a couple more sketches that we've written that are in the pipeline. We're going to try to get on Patreon too, to help get some subscribers and some money to help fund some of the production costs. You know, it costs money to do all this stuff. Time is money too, especially in New York, right? So your guys' support non-financially is extremely helpful and crucial for our success. And then financially, anything helps. No pressure. I won't know if you're not sending us money. I will only know if you're sending us money. So keep an eye out for some of that stuff. But our film guy, Ben, he's great. You know, he uses a Blackmagic camera, went to film school in Wisconsin. Super helpful, super awesome to work with him. I recommend him if you guys are looking to do individual projects. He actually helps me with some of my individual stuff. You know, like he filmed some of my stand-up recently. He helped me with this documentary thing, like this promo video for marketing myself to colleges and to corporate America for, you know, doing comedy in the corporate market. So the dude's versatile. He also did my headshot. So Ben Mead is his name, MEAD. Take a look, super helpful. And tell him that I referred you, and maybe you'll get a referral bonus. I don't know. If he's listening, he's like, well, I don't know what that means, Mike. But anyway, Dom Leonelli, he's one of the starring actors in it. He's super funny, always fun to work with. Hire him in your stand-up. He's a hilarious stand-up comedian. He can host shows. He just did Caroline's, the funniest show on Broadway the other night. I ran into him there. We hung out afterwards, had some dinner. Yeah, the dude, he killed at Caroline's. And yeah, Dom is awesome. He got kicked out of NBC when he first moved to New York for trying every day to like get on Saturday Night Live. And I think that's warrior status right there. You know, it's hilarious to me. They wouldn't let him in like the NBC Rockefeller Center for like 5 years. They banned him from it. And, you know, it's fun to hear those stories. I can't wait till he makes it big and he can tell that story, you know, as a guest on like Jimmy Fallon or something. But yeah, keep an eye out for him. We're very excited. We just invested in some new things. Like we got lights. We've got a sound guy, Connor, from the Midwest. He's the 4th member of the band, if you will, the Bandits. We've got, you know, the Blackmagic camera. We've got a PA now that's volunteering to help us out and just like, you know, do whatever is needed to do to make the shoot successful. We've got people that want to write for us and with us. Somebody recently reached out to me and wanted to help me with my writing for my stand-up. He's like, do you have any staff members that like write jokes with and for you? I was like, no, but I'll take the assistance, you know? So that's pretty exciting. What else? Yeah, so keep an eye out for that. We've got some new stuff coming out. Definitely keep an eye out for the Midwest Sketch Bandits. Moving on, Friday night. On a Friday a while back, I was supposed to do background work for Orange is the New Black, and then they didn't need me, so they sent me home. But I got paid, so that was kind of cool. It was cool to check out the studio. It reminded me of Burbank, California, where I grew up. And then QED is so close by. So I did QED for the first time. It was an open mic. But when I was up there, I was able to check it out. And then now that Muslim show that I told you that I got booked on is going to be at QED in June. So that's pretty cool. What else have I done in the last month that was interesting? Oh, there was a Playboy party that I went to in New York. One of my buddies represents models. And I think it was for Fashion Week. They had there's some Playboy bar in New York, and I was trying to scout talent for female actresses for the Midwest Sketch Bandits. It turned out to be a bust, no pun intended. But no, we didn't really meet anyone at that we're gonna work with, but it was still hilarious. I had to babysit my friend that I invited. It just turned into him drinking way too much alcohol, trying to recruit girls to be part of the Midwest Sketch Bandits, but he was secretly just trying to recruit them for himself. So that was hilarious to watch him and then have to handhold him as he got kicked out. He's been on the podcast in the past, and Brian Kelly, shout out. He's my Sam. We're basically each other's Sams from the Lord of the Rings. I call him Sam. He calls me Sam. So he's a Eureka guy. I met some girls that worked for Ralph Lauren at that party. They were pretty cool. That was a potentially unexpected thing, but unfortunately, it's not going to lead to anything. I was telling them, I was like, do you guys need somebody to represent Ralph Lauren or a new face? And they're like, do you think you fit our brand? I was like, absolutely. And then I pitched why I wear T-shirts that are Ralph Lauren. I was like, yeah, it's it's that casual look. I like to wear the T-shirt because it's not fancy, but it still shows that I know what's up, and I've got that that air of I'm not trying too hard, but it's I'm still repping the Ralph Lauren. They liked it. They were impressed, and then I never heard from them again. So go figure. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much the main stuff that's going on in my world of comedy and entertainment. And now, just for shits and grins, let's talk about the final thing in my podcast, which is just the selfish part of the show where I just talk about me. So anybody, if you want to turn off the freaking microphone, I'm just going to talk about anything else that's going on. Again, it's as if I'm catching up with a buddy, and I'm just kind of sharing what's going on my end. Usually conversations are two-way where you're like, so how's this going, bro? How's your daughter? Oh, how's work going? Yeah, anything new? Hey, how are the chicks going? Oh, you're married? Sorry about that. All right. But it's that type of thing where you go back and forth. So the only things left to talk about are things in my world that I haven't talked about yet that have kind of happened over the last couple months that I think are interesting. The first thing that I think is super, super exciting for me is let's talk about football. My last episode I created was a 3-hour episode about football. It was right after the Super Bowl. You guys are going to be blown away to hear this. If you aren't very close to me, you don't know that this is happening. But I've been getting back in shape. I don't know if you can tell by looking at me, if anyone's watching this live thing, but I've actually been getting back in shape for the last few months since the Super Bowl. Legitimately, over the last 10 or 12 years since I played football, I would do something called atrophy prevention, which is basically bullshit working out just so that you don't die, from being unhealthy. But as far as building muscle, I wasn't into that at all. No motivation, right? But here's the thing. I had this epiphany a few months back, and this is literally where this all started. I thought to myself, technically, I can still play football. My knee is healed. It was a knee injury that stopped me from playing, but it was the timing of the injury that ruined my career rather than the severity. And in my own head, I moved on with my life because I thought to myself, all right, well, I missed the boat, right? I can't get drafted now. And the Missouri Tigers, let everybody go who was injured or at the bottom of the depth chart at that time. So I just thought the door is closed. Why stay in shape? Why do anything? So I completely moved on with my life. Like a girlfriend, when you break up with a girlfriend, you have your heart broken, you're like, fuck that. I'm not even going to look back and think about it. So I basically did that with football. And for years, I couldn't even watch football. And in my own head, I just thought, like, football's over. Like, I have to move on. I focused 100% on comedy and then business. And I realized, like I said, a couple months back, I was like, technically, physically, I have the ability if I got back in shape. I'm 32. There are some guys that play till they're 40. You know, Eli Manning, Tom Brady, those dudes are all older than me. I was like, the only thing stopping me from playing football is me and then some coach that decides that, you know? So all these things that I've been talking about, I'm pursuing comedy. I'm doing everything just as hard as I always have. But there is a piece of motivation secretly deep down in my heart where I'm actually getting back in shape because I might play again. So I've been getting strong. I went back to the Missouri alumni thing for the football team, the spring football game. And that was an interesting thing to go back to, very meaningful, because that's the last time I ever played football was when it was in the spring game of 2008, actually. So 2019, that was 11 years ago, exactly 11 years ago. And I got down on the field again, and I got to reconnect with Coach Odom. I got to reconnect with some of my old teammates like Chase Kaufman, Chase Patton, Brock Christopher, Tommy Saunders, Greg Bracey. You know, I've been keeping in touch with Jimmy Jackson lately, Tony Temple, all these dudes. You know, every time I talk to a football person, it makes me stronger. One of my old teammates, it makes me stronger, and it gives me motivation, and we start to reconnect. It's like there's a magnetism, like where when you come together, you become stronger. I don't know how to explain it, but it's all contributed to my motivation to get back into shape. And I am feeling very athletic. So yeah, you know, I got down and through I'm in my building. I met a dude who played football for UCLA here in New York, and we connected. He played wide receiver there. He's a quarterback. So we actually 2 weeks ago, for the first time in a long time, we got down on the field and I put on my cleats. We threw the football around. We were running routes, and it felt beautiful. And I was feeling fast because I've been lifting. So it felt amazing to get out there and toss the rock around. And then I got out Friday night again, like I told you guys. I'm gonna join this flag football league, and I mean the speed is there. I want to continue to get faster and stronger. But my goal, my plan. I talked to a previous trainer for the New York Giants. Actually, here's the New York Giants. Speaking of them, I talked to one of the trainers who worked with the Giants for several years about the process. And I'm not going to tell you guys the process, but I have a plan in place as to how I'm going to go about, you know, reaching out to the team and looking for a tryout and trying to get on the practice squad. Invincible was 35 years old, and he was a bartender. I don't think he was lifting the way that I'm lifting, and he was older than me when he started playing for the Eagles. So crazier things have happened, and I am motivated. I actually power cleaned today, and I've been doing explosive lifting. I've been working my way up to doing plyometrics again. So that's where it's at. You know, they also have they have a new football league that's opening up, and there's going to be a New Jersey football team. I don't want to have to try and start there, but it is an option. It is good to know that that's there, but I'm going to go straight for the jugular like I always do in life. And if I get an opportunity to try out and they give me, it goes well, I need to make sure before I do that. So here's the plan in place in case you guys are wondering. I'm going to get my lifts back up to a certain percentage of what I was able to do when I was younger. And once my lifts are at that point, I'm going to test and I'm going to be running every week just to make sure that the muscles are getting stronger again for the fast twitch. And like, that way I'm not going to pull a muscle and all this stuff when I test myself. But in the next couple months, I'm going to test and evaluate where my body is at compared to what I was able to do when I was younger and compared to what is done at the NFL Combine. Main thing is my 40 time. So if my 40 time is at a certain number when I test, then I'm going to reach out to the Giants and present myself as an option for them. And I'd like to see my 40 time at least 4.6 in order to consider playing again. But you only live once, and I realized that football and making people laugh are some of my biggest passions and loves. They were the two things I wanted to do when I was a kid, when I grew up, and I'm still alive. I'm still healthy. I'm not wheelchair ridden, and I'm not 80 years old. And when I think about the idea of playing football again and that there's a possibility there, it's I can't even express to you what that would mean to me. And I would give all the glory to a higher power because I've learned so much over the years. And if I was able to do that again, it would be for a much bigger reason than myself, right? So that's the whole football thing. I'm going to keep everyone in the loop, but if I make the team, I'll be streaming stuff, workouts and all kinds of stuff. I may start streaming some of my workouts now, but I feel like it's a little too random. People will be confused because I'm pursuing comedy and they'll be like, why is Mike streaming his workout? But I may consider doing that. But it was great to reconnect with Coach Odom. I was able to thank him for the opportunity to play football for Mizzou and genuinely say that to his face in person because it was of him. It was because of him that I got to play there. And I'm rooting for him and the Tigers, and I hope that this whole scholarship ban thing, we're able to get through that. We've got some new additions to the stadium that's going on. And it just feels so good to be reconnected with so many of the guys. So going back and doing that really is meaningful. I talked to Chase Patton about the idea of throwing the football with him next time I see him. When I got down on that football field, nobody else was left in the stands. I actually did it after the game, and I started crying. I'm not going to lie. I had a moment. I felt similar and overwhelmed with emotions and feelings of so many memories and so much of my efforts, that were put into that. And it just felt so good to reconnect with that and to be spiritually charged by that experience. So anyway, that's pretty much that. And I'll keep you guys in the loop with the football stuff. I don't think there's much to talk about on the personal end with the relationship. Things are going fine. Things are cool. My girlfriend is entertaining. She makes me laugh. She's hilarious. She reminds me of an electron around I'm like a nucleus, and she's just like, you learn in physics that an electron can be anywhere and everywhere, so technically it's everywhere. My girlfriend is like an electron that is anywhere at any time, mood-wise, decision-wise, plan-wise, of things that she wants to do. You never know what to expect from her other than you can expect it. You don't know what you'll expect. So, other than the football stuff, her and I, we went to Mexico a couple months ago, so that was really cool. One of her friends hooked us up with the cool resort thing. I was able to do comedy while I was there, so I was able to work out and get some tan time with her and some of her friends, and then was able to perform. It was a terrible experience performing down in Mexico. The only cool thing is that they promoted me so intensely. It was so funny. They made an announcement to like the whole venue like a couple hours before the performance, and they were like, tonight we got a special opportunity for everybody here. We got one of the best comedians from the United States of America to do some comedy for us tonight, so please gather in the blah 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 room at 10 o'clock. We're gonna be doing comedy there and some karaoke. So, they said one of the best comedians or one of the most famous comedians from the United States. I was like, not quite there, but when I got on stage, the sound system was not very clear, and there was a bunch of like Mexican dudes that just got off work, and they were heckling me in Spanish. So they were like at the bar, interrupting me, and they were like yelling things in Spanish at me. So I'm not exactly sure how to deal with hecklers in a different language, but it didn't make it very much fun. I think it made me better though. It makes you tougher. So that was a good experience, and at least we were able to have a nice room to stay in, and to counterbalance that terrible experience, and get out on that blue water. So that was cool. Other than that whole Mexico thing, I think that's about it, guys. I've talked a lot, so I think we could probably call it a day. I feel exhausted from this, and anybody who's listened to all of this or part of this, they're probably exhausted too, because it's been such a long session. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love all of you. I love myself, and I love you. I love us. You know what I mean? Like, and I recommend that you love me and yourself too. we can spread the love like it's a peanut butter. You know what I mean? And maybe even have intercourse. And if not physically, metaphorically speaking, I think when I'm doing comedy, it's a form of love making. So, yeah. And when you guys are laughing, you're making love with me, metaphorically, right? We're really giving it to each other at that moment. But thank you guys so much. Have a great week, and I'll try to be a little bit more regular with these podcasts. All right. God bless, and go do what you love, baby. Peace.